Hi, everyone. This is Serena Petruska from Devpost, and I'm joined by a team of folks from the FNS department at the USDA, and we are really excited to have you guys on our third and final office hours for the Eat School Lunch UX Challenge. I know people are still getting on, so we're going to hold tight for just a couple minutes while folks join, and then we will start at 5 after or before as people are joined. So hang out with us and get your questions ready. All right, people are joining quickly, so we're just going to go ahead and get started. Couple reminders as we go through. This is a Q&A session, but we do have a very brief presentation to begin where we'll be talking about how to actually submit your entry on Devpost so that there's no confusion for folks there. And then we will be taking QA after that in the order in which it's received. So feel free to ask questions throughout the presentation, and then we will answer them at the end. Just a reminder that we are broadcasting in real time, but you might be watching this with a delay. So on the bottom of your screen, there is a cursor. And if you pull that cursor all the way to the right, you're going to join us in real time. So just remember that as we go along. All right. So first and foremost, before we get into how to submit, I want to talk a little bit about what it is that we are doing, just as a reminder, what your application must do in order to be eligible. Now, this should be pretty ingrained into your brain by this point, but just in case you're just joining us and hurrying to get something together, your application to be eligible for prize must, number one, collect all the required fields, and we have those listed on the requirements page. Number two, be open sourced and provided under the MIT license. We are being specific about which license that is, so MIT license. Number three, it must include a way to capture, save, and export responses. Remember that per our earlier conversations, this is for the school districts. You are not required to create a user account for the individual filling in the form. You may do so if you like, but that is not a requirement. And then number four is you need to include the user prompts to assist with form completion. And so that means putting in behavioral elements throughout your design to encourage people to complete the form correctly throughout. All right, next piece. What do you actually have to include in your submission? You need to include a demo video. And this video should have a step-by-step explanation of how it works, how it improves the UI, how it will reduce the error. This is really your pitch to the judges. Host those videos on YouTube or Vimeo, and as you'll see in the demo, we do provide a place to include your video URL so that your video will be auto-embedded on your entry page. You need to include at least one image or screenshot of your design. You need to include a link to a repository where your open source code is housed. You also need to include a link to your working application, online link for judging and testing, and we've provided a place for that as well. And then finally, we are asking that you provide proof of user testing. Obviously, we know that you're testing in lots of different ways. That's awesome. We have provided a feedback questionnaire that you can use and then upload to within your submission if you like, but you can also highlight this in your text description, in the demo video, etc. So those are the things that you need to create and include in your entry form. All right, time for the demo. So I'm just going to walk through this, how to actually submit. So hang with me for just a second as I switch screen sharing to a different view. Hi, everyone. All right. I'm going to pop over here. Okay, so this should be pretty familiar for you, but this is the Devpost page for the Eat School Lunch UX Challenge. At this point, I am logged in, but I am not registered for this hackathon. So I'm going to go ahead, first step, click register for the hackathon. It's going to say that I've registered. It's going to ask me a little pop-up information. I'm going to choose not to do that at this point, X out of there. And the next thing that I notice is that these guys over here have changed. Instead of saying register, it now says enter a submission. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click enter a submission. And I come to the next page where it says I can either add a new project or I can submit an existing project. Now, I'm going to go ahead and submit an existing project, but as you'll see, I'll show you what it's going to look like if I were to add a new project as well. So I'm going to click submit this project, and this is a project that I already have in my portfolio. You'll notice that the submission form is broken up into 2 steps. Step 1 are the main project details like you'd find on your portfolio page. Step 2 are the specific questions for this hackathon. So if I had picked select a new project, then I would be taken to a form that looks like this. I'm developing a project called blank, so whatever that name of your project is. Here's the elevator pitch. This is a 140-character place where you can talk about, why is this particular submission unique? What did you build it with? Who are your team members? You can add their emails here. Here's the whole story. This is your text description. This is where you're going to talk about what you did. And we do have a bunch of things that are going to auto-populate in here to help guide you in talking about your submission. Try it out. This is where you will place the link to your working online application form. So if you pop it right in there, it will populate on the page, which I'll show you in a moment. Image gallery, you can drag and drop as many images as you want, and they will be housed in a carousel slider here. The thumbnail image is the image that will show up on the submission gallery. So if you want one specifically to be your thumbnail image, you would upload it over here. And then finally, video demo. So this is where you're going to place that YouTube or Vimeo video that will show you, or that will do the demo of your entire application and will be embedded into your screen. So that's all step 1. So I can make edits to this at any time. If I click cancel, or excuse me, save, it's going to pop me in. It says, good job, you've done step 1. Now you need to do step 2. You'll see there's a checkbox here, not over here. So on this side, we've got our important things to remember. Don't forget to put your video in, all of that kind of good stuff. Here's a link to the feedback questionnaire that we spoke about before. And then there's all these very specific particulars. So if I wanted to upload those files, I'd do it right here. But I'm also just going to talk about who I am. So submitter type, I'm an individual. I could post another link to my working application here. As you'll notice, I'm just filling in kind of dummy content for the purpose of this demo. What is my country of residence? I'm in USA. My phone number. Organization name, I'm submitting as an individual, so I don't need to include that. Code repository link, that's where I would put my GitHub, but I am not putting that in right now because this is a demo. Testing instructions, go ahead and put those in. Am I a team of students? No, I'm not. What is that video URL again? Now, the reason we have this on here twice is simply because it's not required on the first page, but we want to make sure that you guys do it. It's super important. So go ahead and enter that again over here. Did I use the Slack channel? I did. Do I have any feedback on it? Not that I really want to share. And then we've got these check boxes of where are you at right now? Did I confirm that my application is open sourced and it's been released under the MIT license? Yes. Did I provide a way to test my entry? Yes, I did. Do I understand that only residents of the US are eligible? I understand. I work with that. I included a demo video, and I agree to be bound by the official rules. So now that I've put all these things together, I'm going to go ahead and click this green Submit to the Challenge button. And let's see what happens. Okay, so a couple things happen right away. This is important. You'll note that first, you get a pop-up on the top that says you've successfully submitted and that you can continue to edit your submission, and here's the deadline. You also see, oh look, this is what my submission looks like on Devpost. So that try it out is coming here, the built with here, this is where your text submission shows up, and then this is where the video will embed. You'll also see what you've submitted to. This is super important. Over here on the right said that I submitted to the School Lunch UX Challenge. If you don't see that, you didn't submit correctly and you need to try again. You can always reach out to us on the discussion boards via the Slack channel or by reaching out to us at support@devpost.com. But and I will post also into the Slack channel a link to this whole video of how to do all of this again for folks that missed it, but this is important. Now, you'll notice also there's two edits, edit project and edit hackathon submission. Edit project is just going to edit that step 1. Edit hackathon submission is going to let you edit both. So I would recommend clicking into that one if you want to do some edits. We'll take a look at that. So it just pops you right back in here. All the stuff we entered was included. Okay, so now, what if you want to enter another submission, or you've navigated away from this page and you want to go back and edit? So let's go to the competition homepage. Yep, I'm going to leave this page. So you'll notice that now manage your submission is the new updated call to action. So if I click into that, I'm going to see a couple things. I'm going to see, oh, look, here's the submission that I already entered. I can either edit the submission, I can message a manager, or I can enter a new submission. Since I only have one project in my portfolio, it's asking me to create a new one. So that's pretty much it. That's how you enter a submission on Devpost. I will, like I said, post a video of this for all of you to take a look at in case you have questions later on, but that's the whole shebang. So I'm going to switch my screen back over here, and then we will jump into questions. Okay, it's time for QA. All right, so we already have quite a few questions in the queue, but please do go ahead and enter them via the QA option. Pull it up into real time as needed, but we will go ahead and get started. So first question comes from Lucas. He's asking, if every child in the household is categorized as any one or more of the following: Head Start, foster child, or homeless, or migrant, or runaway, then do we skip the assistance program question? That is a very good question.
Okay, so this is FNS. You may want to ask the question about assistance program participation first, since it confers categorical eligibility on all students in the household.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Ed. And Lucas, if you have any follow-up questions, let us know. Okay, next question, also from Lucas. For the optional children's racial and ethnic identities question, do we ask this per child that's entered on the application?
The way this is written on the paper prototype right now is just an optional question that's intended for the household in general. So, you know, something that you could probably just put at the end and ask once for the whole household, and maybe let them enter as many, you know, select all that apply.
Great, thanks guys. All right, next question's coming from Kevin, and before I ask it, I'm just going to note that I've only got Kevin's question and one other question in the queue, so I know we've got quite a few viewers out there. If you have any additional questions, please go ahead and write them in now. There are no stupid questions. We want you guys to be real clear, so jump right in. Okay, question is from Kevin. The question is, if every child in the household is categorized, oh wait, that's the same one. Maybe it doesn't. Okay, sorry. If every child in the household is categorized as any one or more of the following: Head Start, foster child, or homeless, migrant, runaway, then household income information does not need to be collected at all. Is that a correct statement?
Okay, we were expecting this question today, and we do have answers on the discussion board that have evolved over the course of a couple of questions like this. The short answer is, you know, this is a slightly unsettled area, and it's a policy question for FNS, so that doesn't help you. So the important thing for you is you need certainty. Our most recent posting on the discussion board says that if every child is participates or is categorized as homeless, migrant, runaway, or Head Start, that yes, that is enough for you to take them past the income section. Whether our final FNS electronic application does the same thing or not, we'll have to decide as an agency how we want to handle that. But for purposes of this contest, that's fine. We're not setting policy through this contest. So you need certainty in order to finish your applications. That's what you should proceed with for now.
Thanks, Ed. Just for one last time, could you be one clear statement on what they need to include right now, just so that we have it on record?
So Kevin's question is, if every child is listed as homeless, migrant, runaway, or Head Start, would you skip the income section? And our answer, our long answer, boils down to yes. For purposes of this contest, that's the way to do it. It's really a matter for FNS to clarify in its own policy later on. But for the purposes of this contest, yes, you would skip the income section.
Perfect. Thank you so much for summing that up. Okay, next question is from Lucas. Should we put text on the application that states the applicant only has to enter one case number for assistance programs like SNAP, TANF, etc.? If so, do you have language for this?
Hi, Lucas. Yes, that is fine for you to put that on the application. The requirement is that they only have to enter one case number. If, in terms of language, there's any number of ways that you could say that. You could just say, if you participate in any one or more of the following programs, please enter a case number for that. I hope that answers your question. If not, type in, come back to us with a clarification.
All right, great. Thanks so much. Okay, next question is from Nicolette. Question is, ideally, how long should our videos be? I was thinking 2 to 3 minutes. I will go ahead and take this question. So that's a great question. We say in the rules that we really encourage people to have videos that are less than 5 minutes. Really, that is simply to make sure that your audience stays engaged. I think 2 to 3 minutes is the sweet spot, and that's a wonderful place to have it. But all that said, if you're over 5 minutes, you're not going to be disqualified. If you have a 1 minute video, that's also fine. The big thing is we want to make sure that you are demoing your application. If it takes you 30 seconds to demo it and you feel like you've done a great job, cool. If it takes you 10 minutes, that's okay too. Biggest thing is we want to make sure that you are, keeping your viewer engaged, whether that's, providing pop-ups or talking about what you're doing as you're doing it, etc. Videos that are difficult to review are ones that maybe don't have any type of narration and you're just going through the steps quickly and it's hard to follow. So as long as you feel like people can follow along, that's great. Okay, last one in the queue coming up. So go ahead and ask more questions. This is coming from Lucas. And the question is, on the paper prototype, there is a question to record the total number of household members to verify that number corresponds to the people entered. Do we need to have the user enter this number online, or can they just verify that the number is correct?
This is a great question, and it's really just a design choice that you can make based on whatever your application. It's really it's a choice. It's up to you.
Okay, great. So is it fair to say that there isn't a specific requirement, but they would need to do either one or the other, either verify the number or put it in specifically?
Yeah, we would like to have that field on the application.
Okay, great. All right, next question. This is also from Lucas, and it is a follow-up on the first question. You mentioned having the assistance program questions first, but then we would still have to get the children's names. So if I'm putting step 1 as the step 1 on the paper prototype, do you still need assistance program? And FNS team, I know this is very specific, so if we need to hold on it for a minute, we can.
Well, if you were to ask the assistance program member first, you would still need to prompt for the children's names because the school would still need to know who the application is for. So either way, you have to ask the children's names.
Okay, great. So just to sum it up, even if you do ask for the assistance program question in advance of the children's name, we do still need to require those children's names so we know at minimum who this application is for.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, next question is from Ali. Says, the fast track scenarios based on the public assistance benefit for the household or the categorical status of the children in the household only apply to student children and not to any non-student children for which the application is not being submitted. I believe that that's a, is this correct question?
So yeah, the only time when a non-student child would need to be listed on the application is when the household is applying based on income. So if they were entering a program case number and applying based on that categorical status, you would really only need the student children's names, similarly to the last question where we would then, the school would just need to know who the application was for.
Okay, got it. And I think this flows into the next question that we've got coming up as well. But basically, it sounds like if you're signing up and filling out the application and you are going to use an assistance or a categorical status for the children, you don't need to list non-students like babies, etc. But if you are submitting based on income, you don't have one of those other statuses to report, then you do need to list non-student children in the home.
Right. Yeah, and that's because the income-based application is, you know, it's a calculation based on income and how many people are in the household. So that's why total household number.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. The next question that we have, and once again, this is our last in our queue because we're cruising through these at Mach speed. So feel free to ask some more. Is the USDA planning on centrally hosting the back end of the form?
The answer to that is no. So just what we've described as guidance in the past, the minimal output from your application is the record or records from the applicants. But what happens to those records is entirely up to the districts. The application process is not in any way a USDA federal process. It's very much a local process. So USDA is not going to host the information. It's not going to maintain any of the information.
All right, great, thank you. All right, next question. For the admin part, are you looking for a specific format for exporting the application like CSV or PDF? We haven't specified within the rules or the requirements what that format needs to be, because similarly to what Ed just mentioned, this is going to be handled on a case-by-case basis by the districts and isn't necessarily going to be a one-size-fits-all setup. So for the purposes of this competition, we have encouraged you to create a saving database that allows you to save and export the data. Whether that's in CSV or an XML feed or what have you, those are all fine. If it was a PDF, I think for the purposes of this competition, that would be fine. It might be more difficult down the road if the districts were looking to integrate that into another data house that they had. PDFs might be more difficult. But that said, there isn't a requirement about that. So if you were to set it up as a PDF export, you would not be disqualified for that. Okay, next question. It looks like Lucas and I are missing the boat on this one, so hopefully this will help clarify. Trying one more time with this question. I'm starting with children info, including status of foster, etc. If all children qualify, they are eligible and can skip over income. Do you also need assistance program info if this is the case?
So I guess we weren't clear a minute ago. We would really urge you to consider asking the assistance information question first, because that would apply to everybody in the household. It's a simpler application in that sense. We don't want to dictate the way your application flows, but that logically is a better way to handle that.
All right, great. So Lucas, let us know if that didn't clarify, but I think it probably did. Okay, next question. Is security part of the judging consideration? How much time should I spend locking down endpoints, etc.? All right, Kyle, so I'm gonna pop over and change our thing here. This is the judging criteria, just so we can walk through it together. So judging is equally weighted across these 5 criteria, and the criteria include the UX and design appeal, the effectiveness and efficiency of the behavioral prompts, the implementation of the form requirements, the application code documentation and implementation, and the demonstration of testing and debugging. You'll notice that security is not something that we specifically call out. I suppose that you could, push it into one of the 2 final criteria, but it is not specifically called out. It is not a specific requirement. Your application as it stands, as you send it to us, probably will not be the exact same application that is finally used, even if it is almost fully that type. But I do imagine, and FNS team, please let me know if I'm incorrect here, that security is something that will be handled by the FNS team when they are finalizing the prototype. Okay, next question. If we are hosting the working prototype, are we not allowed to make changes on the back end of the code past March 1st? Yeah, great question, Lucas. So that is correct. We are asking, and this is something that we will monitor, we're asking that you don't make any changes between the deadline, March 1st, and the end of the judging period, which I believe, actually let me look that up real quick. End of the judging period is March 25th. So basically all of March, we would encourage you not to make changes. We will be we'll be looking at your submission and looking also at your demo video. So if they don't match, it's going to be pretty obvious that things have changed. But we would very much encourage you not to do that, and we will be monitoring it. Okay. One more from Lucas. Thanks for the clarification. I don't agree that it's the most important or most user-centered way to start an application, having the assistance program info as the first question. So if I'm starting with child info, do you still need assistance program info if all of the kids are foster? So sounds like outside of the flow that we suggested, if they are all foster children, would we still need the assistance program information?
So leaving enough room, as much room as possible for your sort of imagination, your vision for this application. We're not going to tell you to do it a certain way. We'll let you do what you like, and we're interested to see how that works out. That's a pretty question. So if you're starting with child info, do you still need assistance program info if all kids are foster, etc.? Under that sort of fact pattern, you would not. We're not saying that that's the best way, and our advice would not be to do it that way, but if you want to do it that way, we're interested to see what it looks like.
All right, great. Great questions, Lucas. Thanks for clarifying with us. Okay, I am currently on my last question in the queue, so if you're waiting for your moment, now is the time. Okay, this question is, can you elaborate on the image requirement for an image screenshot of the design? Is it asking for a wireframe of the application? That's a great question. It's not specific about exactly what that image might be, but let's just pop back to our submission package must include. So based on the rules, at least one image or screenshot of your design must be included. That can very simply be a screenshot of your working application. You can also include wireframes if you like. But keep in mind that this does need to be a full working application to be eligible. So if you were to only submit wireframes and ideas, that would not make you eligible for prizes. All right, so we are currently out of questions, so we're going to hang out here for just a minute while you guys type furiously and get those up into the queue. We've got another 30 minutes to go that we've slated in here, so we do hope you have additional questions that we can help out with. All right, while we're waiting for more questions, I am going to give you guys one word of wisdom. Well, more than one word, but a little bit of wisdom here on the submission video. I would really encourage you as much as possible to create and upload that submission video to either YouTube or Vimeo at least a day in advance of the deadline. We have unfortunately had on more than one occasion instances in which folks are not able to submit on time and thus are not eligible for prizes because they waited until the last moments to include that video, upload it to Vimeo or YouTube, and it does not always happen instantaneously. So please, please, please do yourself a favor and upload in advance so that you don't miss the deadline, because that is a very firm deadline. All right, we've got one question coming in from Kevin. Question is, will you be demoing every application or only some of them based on the videos submitted? Great question, Kevin. We will be looking through all of the submission elements in order to vet them to make sure that they are eligible. And all of the links to your applications will also be included with the information that goes to the judges. So from a Devpost perspective, yeah, we will be demoing every application. However, judges, based on the rules, are allowed technically to score only based off of that demo video if they so choose. That said, since these are web applications, they should all have the ability to review based on the actual application as well. Okay, got a good question from Melissa. How much of our process would you like to see in the Our Story part of the submission? It's really up to you as far as how much you put in there. I think that high level is probably better. The things that you want to really talk to are things that are going to inform the judges. So as a reminder, oh, sorry, went the wrong way. What informed your UX and design? Why did you choose to do things the way that you did? How have you included behavioral prompts, and why do you think they're going to be effective? Is there feedback that you've gotten from your testers that you could include in this section when you're talking about that? How have you implemented the form requirements? Did you do anything specific that we think is cool? And then the application code, documentation, demonstration of testing, those are all areas that you could talk about not only in your demo video, but you could also talk about in the story part of the submission. That said, reading a giant submission is sometimes not the most fun thing in the world. So if you find that it's more than, you know, a page or so of text in your text editor or document, might want to consider toning that down just a little bit. You certainly will not be penalized for having a longer or shorter story. It is not a requirement to have a specific length, but you just want to make sure that you've, you know, given yourself the best opportunity to really showcase all of your work. All right, another question from Melissa. She says, so this was fun. Does the USDA have any other challenges in the pipeline? Great question.
Not at present, but you know, we're encouraged by the interest we're getting from this contest, and that will certainly influence our decision to do something similar in the future.
All right, sounds good. And then we've got another one from Lucas. Follow up on the race and ethnicity question, realizing it's optional, but it's asking race and ethnicity for the children. If a house is multiracial, it might be confusing for the applicant. Is it okay to ask this per child, noting it is optional each time?
So on some of our past webinars, we've sort of copped out a little bit and said that we'll respond in writing a little bit later. So rather than say the wrong thing, we're going to reserve this one for a written response after the webinar.
All right, sounds good. So Lucas, we will get that question answered for you as soon as we can. And with that, I'm again out of questions, which is great. You guys have asked a lot of them, and I'm hoping that you'll ask some more. So please feel free to do so. All right, while I'm waiting for the next slew of questions, I'm going to give you a little bit more submission advice, which is if you do not see the confirmation email, confirmation pop-up, or do not see that your submission, when you look in your personal portfolio, is listed as being submitted to the Eat School Lunch UX Challenge on the right-hand side, like I showed you before. If you don't see any one or all of those things, don't assume that it has been submitted. It is possible to put a project into your portfolio as a portfolio project and not submit it to a competition, although it should have a little pop-up, but you can X out of that. So I would very, very strongly encourage you to not believe that your submission is fully in and that we have it unless you have one of those things. And if you have any questions about that, if you're not sure if your submission has been entered fully or not, please reach out. We are more than happy to check for you. You can reach out on the discussion board, you can reach out on Slack, or you can reach out via an email to support@devpost.com, and we'll take a quick look and let you know where it's at and what you can do to get it submitted. All right, any other questions? Please feel free. The other, I'm just trying to think of lots of little pieces of submission wisdom that I can provide for you guys. And I know a couple of people have already done this, and I've encouraged other folks to do it as well. But to the extent that you can, make sure to go ahead and start your submission right now. You can, like you saw me do, you can put things in to fill the spaces so that you can submit at the moment. It will trigger the Devpost team to take a quick look at your submission and see, what pieces are there, what pieces are not, and we'll let you know about that. But you can continue editing up until that very final minute of 4:59 p.m. on March 1st in Eastern Time. So don't get caught off guard. Go ahead and fill out everything that you can fill out. Leave the last pieces until when you're at a point where you can get to those. But it's always a bummer when you work really hard on something and then something that's preventable keeps you from submitting. We don't want to see that happen. So please, please upload your videos early, start your drafts early. You can always edit them as you go.
We were actually internally discussing here Lucas's question again about the order of the questions and the UX. And if Lucas is still on, I guess we can answer a little bit more.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that, Whitney. I am having a little bit of trouble hearing you, although I can hear Ed. So I don't know if your positioning is different in the room, but just a heads up.
Okay, I'll just talk a little louder. we were just discussing the order of the student statuses versus the program assistance case number question, and thinking that, you know, there's no actual requirement that the student statuses have to be asked sequentially after the student names. So if it's a matter of you know, ordering the statuses after the names, there's nothing that says that you couldn't put, you know, the students' names and then the case numbers and then the student statuses, or, you know, the order of the questions is not at all set in stone at this time.
All right, great. So it sounds like there's a good deal of flexibility in the order as long as they're all accounted for.
Right.
That's great. All right, I'm still blank on questions, and I know we've got some folks viewing. You guys might be viewing a little bit behind. That's totally fine. Oh, and Lucas says that's helpful. I'm glad to hear it. Thanks for the feedback, Lucas. So yes, if there are other questions, please pop those in. All right, I'm just going to break up the dead air in case people are watching this later on. We are hanging out waiting for questions right now. I've got another 18 minutes or so. Oh, here we go. Here's a couple. Wonderful. Please don't stop. There's just two up here. First one we've got is from Nicolette. Question is, do you want proof of research, interviews, questionnaires that we did before the project started? That's a good question. We don't have a requirement for proof of research that you might have done before the project started. The one requirement that we have is the proof of user testing. So if you would like to include pre-development research that you did via questionnaires or interviews or what have you, I think that's great. It's not a requirement, so if you run out of space or feel like it's too much, that's okay as well. As long as you do include, you know, the testing that was done on your specific design. Anything to add on that, FNS team?
Nope, that was all.
Okay, great. The next question that we have is, for the export option, is it merely a dump of the database, or is there a particular requirement, or is it up to us? Yeah, the answer to that is it's the last. It's kind of up to you. We have not specified if it has to be in a specific format, if it's a database dump, etc. Because as we mentioned before, it is going to be kind of determined by the needs of each district, how they want to include the information that you've provided into whatever database system they're using. So for the moment, you just need to have a way to save it. If that's just a database dump and that's in a readable way, that's great. That's fine. If you would like to be more specific and build it out a little bit more, that's also fine. All right, that was my last question. So fire away more whenever ready. All right, we've got a question from Kevin. He says, for the purposes of this hackathon, does there need to be an administrator login? I will pitch to FNS to let me know if I'm off track here, but based on the rules and requirements, You are not required to have an administrator login. It may be that they include one at a later point for the full prototype that is presented to the districts, but that is not something that you are required to have for this hackathon.
Yeah, we agree, Serena.
Great, thanks. All right, we've got 15 minutes left in the time where we'll be hanging out, answering questions for you guys. So lots of stuff here. Okay, another question from Ali. Do we need to have a feature that allows editing an already submitted application, or is that beyond the scope of this challenge? I would say that that is beyond the scope of this challenge. I think it does make sense to the extent that you are able to do it or may have already built it in to have editing allowances within the application. So before you've submitted it, you might want to, edit as you go along. You've realized that you've entered something incorrectly. But once you've actually submitted, I don't think that we are requiring for you to have some sort of function that allows you to edit a previously submitted application. I believe that that would require a user login and that type of thing for the submitters, which we're not requiring right now. So I hope that answers your question. You certainly are able to do that. We won't be upset or disqualify you for doing that, but it's not something you're required to do. While we're waiting for other questions, I actually did just get a question on Slack, which I will respond to on Slack, but I want to address it here as well. I have a user who's reached out and said that they've submitted something and gotten a note from Devpost that says that it goes against the Devpost guidelines and that's been flagged and can't be seen. I just want to address this to everybody who's watching. If you come across that, if your submission gets flagged, that's something that happens sometimes when you're editing quite a few times all at once. We do have some spam software in place to identify spam users, which we do have. So it does happen from time to time that if you're editing a lot and saving, you might get flagged as something that could be spam. If that happens, it is not a problem. What you need to do is just reach out to us. You can reach out to me on Slack, or you can reach out to us on support@devpost.com and just give us a link to your application and ask the question, why is this flagged? I'm trying to submit to the Lunch UX Challenge, and we'll unflag it for you. It's most likely nothing having to do with your particular application, but just an overzealous spam filter. All right, and as we're waiting, we've got another 12 minutes or so while we'll be online answering questions here. But F&S team, I'm thinking about different tips that I can give people for submitting and posting those out, but I would encourage you guys as well, if you have thoughts or any last minute encouragements on any particular areas, requirements, etc., feel free to shout those out as well.
Okay, Serena, we have a little bit of advice. So first we want to say we're really looking forward to some creative leading edge designs. I mean, the design is what we're really interested in seeing. And we know that, you know, this pool of participants is where we're going to get something that's, you know, unlike what we have now. So we want you to, you know, put your best effort into coming up with a really, like I said, really great design. And then just getting back in a bit to, I think it was Lucas's question about the sequence of questions. You know, we put the paper prototype application on the website as a resource to sort of help, you know, make the rules concrete so that you can see what a finished application looks like, so that we're not talking in the abstract about, you know, children's names and checkboxes for this or that. But, you know, there's a risk in putting a paper prototype on our website as a resource too. And the risk is that you'll think that we're wedded to that design in some way, and we're not. We want you to generate a design that was built and designed from the ground up for a web environment, not for a piece of paper. So, you know, with that as advice, I guess we're, you know, leaving the you know, the design totally up to you. Something that works, that's consistent with the rules, but don't feel that the paper application is constricting you in some way.
I think that's really great advice, Ed, and I would encourage folks also to remember that the goal of this is to capture all of the information. If your application captures it and, you know, it's a little bit off, maybe you didn't get the scenarios exactly right, there's something different, etc., it's not going to necessarily disqualify you. There isn't an exact right answer for how this form should be laid out. As Ed said, it's really, we're looking for it to be rebuilt in a way that can give people more flexibility and really help people to complete it in the best way possible. All right, we've got less than 10 minutes left. I know that there's a few people that are still on and watching. If you have any questions, you know, burning a hole in your fingertips, please go ahead and type them out. We are happy to answer them. As we did note in the update that we sent out a bit ago, you know, we are more than happy to continue to answer questions all the way up until the deadline. But as you've seen, some of these questions require a little bit more time than others. So we would very much encourage you to let us know what questions you have as soon as possible, whether it's on this webinar or not, so that we can answer them for you. We'll do our best to get all questions answered before the deadline so that you have time to make those changes. But it is definitely in your best interest to ask sooner rather than later. So please remember that. And then another thing that I'll throw out, because a couple people have asked me independently offline if they can enter multiple submissions. That's fine. As I showed you guys before in the beginning of this presentation, if you click that Manage a Submission box there, you're going to have the opportunity to either edit your submission or to enter a new one. It's completely okay to enter multiple submissions. That said, the rules do state that they do need to be unique submissions. So you can't just change the font or the layout and have everything be exactly the same, just in a different color type of a situation. Obviously, that would not be substantially different. So if we do come across a scenario where someone has submitted multiple entries and we feel strongly that they are substantially similar, then we will reach out to you guys and ask you which one you'd like to move forward. We won't just pick ourselves. We will give you the opportunity to weigh in on that. But that said, if you have two different ideas, submit them. Double your chances. We would certainly love to see all of the great work that you've done and great ideas that you've had.
Serena, it looks like we have a new question from Kevin.
Oh, Great, it just hadn't come through on my side. Thanks for that. Okay, so Kevin is asking, should we have an introduction or information page or just jump right into collecting information from the applicant? I am gonna put this back to you guys at the FNS team, and then I can follow up if needed.
Yeah, so I think this is pretty much just a design and a UX question. So that's up to you, Kevin, whatever you think.
All right, sounds good. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. So any questions you have, please feel free to post them. Okay, so I'm hoping that a couple questions will interrupt me as I'm giving my last little spiel here, but just in case they don't, I just want to call out the text that's been kind of staring you guys in the face for the last hour, that the deadline to enter this competition is March 1st. It is at 5 p.m. Eastern time. If you are not in Eastern time, that's US East Coast time right now, go look up what that is for you. Find out for sure what that deadline is for you. Once the clock strikes 5 p.m., the submission form will no longer be available. So it is really important that you enter before 5 p.m. If you have questions, if your entry has been received, again, you can ask, but you can also look at the submission that you entered, the entry on your portfolio page. It will say what you've entered it into, so you'll be able to see that. Don't forget that that you have to have the video uploaded beforehand in order to submit. If you put in a video URL that is, or try to upload a video in MP4 format or something like that, it's not going to work. It'll be too large for you to upload. So please do post onto YouTube or Vimeo in advance. And then we will be posting the submissions once we have received them all and gone through them. So there may be a little bit of a delay after March 1st. If you aren't seeing the submission gallery go up right away, just know that we are going through each and every submission using a human to check and make sure that all submissions that we post have either met or not met the requirements, and we know where everybody stands. We won't be opening up that submission gallery early, so feel free to go ahead and post your submissions in advance, and they will remain private until after the 1st. Okay, I mean, unless anyone else has a final question, I think we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you guys for attending. I'm really, really pleased with all of the effort that's been put into this competition so far. We are so, so excited to see the results. FNS team, did you want to say something?
No, other than thank you for participating, and you're contributing to something that's going to really benefit lots of kids.
Absolutely. Really important, really cool project. All right, great. Well, we're going to sign off now. And again, if you have questions, you can post on the discussion board, you can post them to Slack, or you can email support@devpost.com and we'll get them answered for you. And we can't wait to see everything that you guys submit. Good luck.